Hello and welcome to Uncapped, where we lift the lid off natural and low-tox lifestyles with essential oils. I'm Jess Raitt. Nature is always sharing her wisdom. Let me help you hear her whispers. Today I am joined by Blue Diamond wellness leader Adam Barralet, who is the epitome of someone living and leading their most fulfilled life. Adam's connection with nature has been as important to him as the air he breathes, both of which he's been doing his entire life. His experience reads like the tales of an extraordinary memoir, author and teacher, success mentor, workshop and meditation, Blue Diamond leader, crystal and tarot reader, and even astrologer. Adam's book, Gifts of the Essential Oils, written alongside friend Vanessa Jean, is a staple in my life. And so today I feel like I am the student, eager to learn as much as I can from this remarkable man. Adam's bio says, "It is my hope that our paths will cross at some time and I will be able to work with you to deepen your relationship with nature." Well, today is our lucky day. Welcome to Uncapped, Adam Barralet.
Wow, thank you so much for having me today. I'm wrapped to be here.
This is just so delightful to have you in my living room, and I've been looking forward to this moment for quite a long time. I have to admit something. I was doing a bit of research on you because I know that we've spoken, but we haven't been able to, I guess, get to know each other on a deeper level. And when I read your bio on your beautiful website, I noticed my shoulders begin to relax a little bit. I sunk back deeper into my chair. You brought on a feeling of relaxation because you're such a storyteller, and I love your words. So can we start at the beginning? How did your relationship with nature, with the oils begin?
Yeah, I was very lucky to grow up in the Perth Hills, so surrounded by nature. So it wasn't unusual for me to see kangaroos all the time, to be around kookaburras and that type of thing as well. You know, we'd spend the days climbing trees and catching tadpoles and things like that. So when I started getting to those teenage years where you start to question what's life about and all that type of thing, I guess being surrounded by nature, anything that was natural, I was drawn to. So whether that be something like crystals, or I was interested in the stars above and astrology, but essential oils came into my life. I think I found a magazine subscription where every fortnight you would get a little bottle of, I don't know what quite was in that bottle, if it was an essential oil or not, and it would tell you what to do with the essential oils. And I just thought for many, many years that they were great, nice smelly things in that type of way. As time went on, I started, getting more and more into essential oils, and throughout university, I studied things to do with human biology and chemistry and psychology and health sciences, massage, and the essential oils were always there. But for most of my life, until I discovered doTERRA, they were probably just nice smelly things that made you relax a little bit more. And it wasn't until doTERRA came into my life about 8 or 9 years ago that I started to realize how much more was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing your storytelling, or reading your storytelling, especially on your website, because it does paint that picture of a little boy that was really getting his hands grubby in the dirt, who was appreciating the plants that were growing around him and the sky above. And it's almost something that's missing in this day and age, where we have that connection with what we're used to, what's around us. Does it still impact you today?
It does. And I think, I wasn't a special little boy because we all can relate to that if we're kind of that generation as well. But unfortunately, I guess life has kind of moved us away from nature. And like everyone else, I have the struggles of getting out into nature, but I guess I've made it a real importance in my life to try and be in contact with nature as much as possible, and then to share that with other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that you, and we will talk about this later on in our conversation, but you are fantastic at having a presence online and being able to show on YouTube, for example, how you can talk about the essential oils in a way that's educating us, but also inspiring us. But I adore the fact that you are sitting in the bush. You can hear the birds chirping behind you. You can see the sun peeking through the trees, and it just brings that element of calm, of peace when you live in such a technology-driven world. Why did you choose to do it like that?
I think because people forget with their little brown bottles of essential oil that it's just something that smells, and they forget that each of them come from a different plant. I remember actually doing an exercise with a group of my customers one day where we got all the herbal essential oils, and I went down to the shops and bought all the herbs. And I said, can you match the bottle with the herb? And no one actually knew which plant gave us which oil. Wow. And I started to see that disconnect. So I was really excited about, okay, How can we start to connect people back into nature? Yeah. And obviously filming in nature, I've had kangaroos crash and foxes crash one of my things. I've been rained on, the sun's in the wrong place, all those different things. But people, like you said, they find it relaxing. And if I can remind people that there is something amazing outdoors and to get them out maybe on an evening, night or on the weekend, then I've done a little bit of my job.
Absolutely. Well, you're doing a bit more than a little bit of your job.
Thank
because you are
That's
literally leading the way in reminding us to get outside.
Yeah.
The importance of getting outside, whether you've got young kids, you've got old kids, or you yourself, the importance of going for a walk out in nature and experiencing those sights, those sounds, the smells of the bush. It's so important. You have a gorgeous little statement that I'd love to read, if I may, from your website. You can tell that I've become quite immersed in your website and in you, and I'm quite thrilled that you're here. I want to quote something that you've written. I was inspired to empower others to reconnect with those around them and with Mother Earth, the greater provider who gives us with everything we need and is getting to a point where she needs to give back to her in return. Can you talk to this powerful statement and talk about the lady who changed your perspective on self-help?
Yes. So I had the privilege of living in Toronto in Canada for a year. And I did a volunteer job at the Toronto Zoo. Now in Toronto, they have a great program with the school system where each year the kids learn about animals and that type of thing, and they come along, and I'd be a tour guide that would actually take them through, and they'd see the animals that they were learning about and learn a few things, and we'd talk about that, which is great. I've always been passionate about, humans' impact on the earth and what we're doing and seeing the changes and the consequences of that. And so, and it still upsets me how quickly animals are becoming endangered now. So I wanted to know why it wasn't in the curriculum of what we were talking to the children early on about, this animal, this tiger that you're looking at may not be around in 5 years' time or 10 years' time and that type of thing. And we didn't start talking about that until about the grade 6 or 7. And I asked why. We need to let them know quickly. And she said this one statement that still resonates with me today is, we only protect what we love. And if we don't help the children when they're younger to fall in love with the animals, then they're not going to take actions when they're older to actually protect them. And that has been kind of shaped what I do, is I just want to remind people and help them fall back in love with nature. And hopefully then the more people that are doing that will help to protect that in different ways.
Gosh, that's so beautiful. And it's so true, because we forget. We go inward. We look inward and what is impacting us and how we're feeling on a day-to-day basis. And it can become quite selfish in that instance. And when you change that perspective and look outwards, which I know you focus on heavily in the way that you live your life as well, how can I serve others? How can I help others to live their best lives? Considering the animals, considering the plants, considering the world that we live in, how do we lead our best lives? So kudos to you.
Thank you.
You're leading by example, and I want to do better for my own kids as well as myself and my partner, the family unit, to be able to live a more conscious lifestyle. I think that's really incredible that you're doing that.
And we are overwhelmed as people, and we can be very busy in that way. And I think it's really important to realise that we're not helping an external thing when we're helping Mother Nature. We are connected to this earth, and we know innately that if it all goes pear-shaped, we're all in trouble.
Yes.
And nature has all these healing solutions, and every time when we go back to nature, we find that balance, we find that better health and that type of thing. So it's not about doing something for Mother Nature necessarily, it's about the same reason we clean our house, or the same reason we look after our car and our different possessions. Yes. It's about making sure of our own well-being for the future and for generations to come as well.
So you've achieved some extraordinary things in your life. In my intro, I did comment on all the different hats that you wear, and it's very impressive. How has writing books, creating guided meditations, traveling the world, sharing your knowledge, impacted or played a part in your dōTERRA journey as well?
I think they've kind of been very intertwined. So how the journey kind of began into being a teacher and an educator and those types of things is after I was living in Toronto, I then got to live in New York City, which was an interesting experience for 6 months, and I wasn't able to work there. Okay. And so that was the first time in my life that I actually just had this time to go, what do I want to do? And it was around the age of 30 when we kind of get to this point where we kind of go, what am I doing with my life? Am I heading in the right direction? And that's where I actually started to write my first book. And it wasn't actually on essential oils or something else that I'm well known for, crystals. It was actually on animals and the wisdom we get from watching animals and that type of thing. But when I came back to Australia, I had the opportunity to work in a crystal and new age kind of spiritual shop. And there I found out how many people there were that loved all these different things. And also met a publisher who asked me to write my first book on crystals. So I kind of got known in some circles and on social media as one of the crystal guys of Australia. And then I was invited in that time to a free workshop on essential oils. So I was like, why not? I was free on that Tuesday morning, went along, and I'd been buying essential oils for 25 years. I had a big collection from all different ranges and that type of thing. So I was kind of like, oh, well, I'll see what I learn. And everyone was at the end, do you want to grab some? I was like, no, I think I've pretty much got every oil. But I'd put some frankincense, some doTERRA frankincense on my wrist. And that afternoon, I just kept smelling it. And I was like, oh, I really like this one. So I wrote back to the person who invited me and said, I'd love to just grab some of that. It was through that I kind of got into into doTERRA and then started to learn about the amazing work that doTERRA does. And that's where I fell in love with the company and have been, an advocate for them for over 8 years now.
I'm going to toot your own horn because you haven't mentioned it yet, so I'm going to do it.
Okay.
74,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel.
Yep.
I struggle to get 200 to watch our Uncapped, so I've got a bit of work to do and maybe we need to chat afterwards to work out how you're playing with the algorithms. I don't know what you're doing. No, I do know what you're doing. You're being authentic, you're being real, and you're showcasing essential oils in a way that creates a why state. And understand why we need these gifts from nature in our lives. It's very clever, and no one else that I've seen is doing it like you're doing it. So what brought you to present like that and educate the world?
It wasn't a conscious decision where I was like, okay, I need to do it that certain way and that'll get me big numbers on YouTube or anything like that. The key thing's just been consistency. And I try and get as many videos up as I can. There are weeks, there are months where very little goes up because just life's been that chaotic way. But yeah, it's been I'm an eternal student and I just love learning. And just like when we learn a fascinating fact, we want to tell people about it. That's basically what I do is and my Christmas is when a new essential oil comes out from doTERRA. I remember once when Summer Savory was launched.
Really?
Yep. And it was a Saturday night. And I think the announcement came out about 5 p.m. and I didn't have anything on that night. And I spent the whole night sitting there with the books that I had, learning whatever I could and searching and reading all these different things. And that excites me. And then getting out and sharing that with other people is, I want to tell them about it. So that's what I do.
A very unique gift to be able to not only have that interest yourself in that particular oil or product and want to know about it from your own personal perspective, but then looking and doing the research to be able to gather enough data, so to speak, to be able to on-share that knowledge so that you can impart that wisdom onto others. That's a very unique behavioural trait. So thank you. And I know I keep saying thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
But you've inspired me to be in this position. And I know I haven't pre-warned you saying this, and I promise I won't get teary myself, but when I came back from maternity leave with my second born, my little boy Lachlan, I was looking for a bit of inspiration myself and how to incorporate the oils in a way that's going to benefit the community. And I stepped into this product education space because of you.
Wow.
It was your YouTube videos that really inspired me to try and replicate or just take a little bit of your expertise and wisdom and try and translate that to our community as a broader from corporate. So I really want to honour you for the work that you are doing, because you are not only thriving in your own space, but you're also allowing others to thrive and rise up as well.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I must admit, people obviously see the end products of the YouTubes or the books or that type of thing, but I sit in the bush and I talk to myself, or I sit there in front of my computer, and a book takes, I haven't tried to count how many hours to produce, that beautiful thing that comes out. And you wonder, a lot of the time you send things out onto YouTube or onto Instagram or any of the platforms, and you get a couple of comments, but you don't know what difference it's making out there. So just to be told that, it's nice to kind of know, okay, keep going, because there are days when you wonder if anyone's listening at all and whether it's worth it.
We are listening.
Thank you.
We absolutely are listening. And that's a beautiful segue, because I have a little story. My husband and I and our 2 young kids adore getting up on a Sunday morning and going out to nature. We go for a bushwalk, and we find a local trail that is going to give us a good hour where the kids can immerse in touching the leaves, the sticks, looking at the creatures. And we just adore the smells, the sights and the sounds of what's happening above us. And we are nature people. We live on the cusp of the country. So we've got a bit of urban living, but also a bit of country. And it's very, very important to us. And why I've invited you on the couch to speak with me today is because of your expertise with nature, as well as talking about essential oils that specifically talk to a certain type of bathing that you can do, or an activity that you can do in the bush. We are talking about a new product that we will be launching. By the time this goes to air, it will have launched in our market. We're talking about Shinrin-Yoku, which is the forest bathing blend. You were very fortunate enough to launch the Japanese version of this blend, Moronoto.
Yes.
In Japan. Talk to us all about that. How was that experience? What was it like going to the Japanese convention, being on stage with Dr. Riggs, I understand?
Yes.
As well? Give us all the info.
It was an amazing honour to be invited to go over to Japan and talk about it. And Japan is a country I've had a long love for. I did study Japanese at high school, although I think I'm actually better at eating rice with chopsticks than actually speaking Japanese. We had That's very interesting teacher. Exactly, yes. But it's such a unique and beautiful country in that way. So to be able to go over there and talk about that was absolutely amazing. Shinrin-Yoku, or forest bathing, is something that I kind of came into my sphere and I learned a little bit about a few years ago, just started off with a book that I found. It was kind of created a few decades ago when, wherever we live in the world, we probably know that the Japanese are renowned for working really hard, and they have that really good work ethic both at school and at work. But obviously, as we know, as we work hard as well, we get stressed. And so the stress levels and the pressure that the Japanese tend to be on was really high, and that was leading through to different health issues, as it would. So the Japanese government wanted to go, how do we solve that solution? Now, you and I both know, as you mentioned before, when we go out in nature, we just feel a little bit better. So it started to create these programs to encourage workers to get out into nature during the week, even if they can on weekends and that type of thing. And they started to notice the benefits that were there. And so with Shinrin-Yoku, or forest bathing, they started to look at, well, how do we get the maximum benefits from it? Now, it's not just about walking through the bush. And sometimes we might go, okay, well, I go and do my 30-minute power walk and get the heart rate up and that's it. The idea of bathing, and I love that they use this word bathing, is to kind of soak and use your 5 senses. So stop and look around. And like you're saying with the kids, and kids are great and curious. And we're often in the modern world, telling them, stop looking, stop touching. Yes. But now you're like, look and touch everything kind of thing. So you're encouraged to touch the soil, touch the leaves, just have that curiosity, that childlike curiosity, no matter what age you are, to stop and to listen to the sounds, to take some deep breath in and smell what you can smell, to basically engage all the 5 senses. And what they started to find is people were sleeping better, their stress levels were lower, their creativity was up, their body was able to move more freely, all these kind of positive health benefits just from being in the forest. So the really exciting thing is, obviously they realize there's all these benefits of being out in the forest, and they're encouraging people to do that. And then, of course, as scientists, they want to know, well, what's actually happening? Yeah. So what they worked out is that when we walk through the forest, the big trees, so these are things like our cypresses and our firs and our spruces and so on, they release these things into the air called phytoncides. Okay. And I was like, oh, interesting word. But then the book I was reading started to talk about these phytoncides, and it was talking about these things that are called alpha-pinene, beta-pinene, camphene, D-limonene. I'm like, they sound familiar. from of course being constituents in essential oils. And that got really exciting, because as this book actually went on, it talked about if you don't have the ability to get out in nature, the next best thing is bringing nature into the home. And that book started talking about using essential oils in the home to capture the same effects of being out in the forest. Now, obviously, we don't have the sounds of the birds necessarily, or the green and the things we can touch. Sure. But we're still getting that beautiful influence that the trees are just releasing them to keep themselves healthy, to fight off diseases, and they actually use it to communicate to each other as well.
Yeah.
So as we're working through the forest, there's a conversation happening that we're not privy to, but it's all beneficial for us.
That is just remarkable. And how clever are doTERRA for encapsulating or putting into a bottle what we experience. It's almost being able to convert an emotion to a physicality, which is very hard to achieve.
Very much so. And I got the privilege of spending lots of time with Dr. Riggs while we were in Japan together and talking about how this blend had been created and all
Isn't
these
he
different
wonderful?
changes. Lovely man.
I love him.
Exactly. And whereas other blends, like we've got Native Bush, which I love. We've got Northern Escape. We've got Holiday Peace that comes out. We've got Midnight Forest that's a LTO oil. All these ones capture kind of nature and big foresty smells, and I love them to bits.
Yeah.
They were all created for the aromatics.
Yes.
So they smell a certain way. The Shinrin-Yoku blend was created based on the chemistry to match the forest air. So it does smell amazing, but it's not actually made for its smell. It's made for its ability to replicate the effects of being in the forest. And even the first kind of short-term studies that they were doing just in-house, Dr. Riggs was talking to me about, was amazing what they were noticing just by diffusing this essential oil around the home day and night.
Incredible. And it's an interesting blend. So we've got some woods in the blend, but then there's also some florals and a little bit of citrus as well.
Yeah.
How do they all play in together?
So you've obviously, with the beautiful forest trees, you've got to have them in the Shinrin-Yoku blend for bringing in the same chemistry in that way. The florals that they've chosen are some of our more relaxing ones. So we know good old things like lavender and magnolia. They're high in things such as linalool, which basically communicates to the central nervous system, calm down.
Calm down.
Now, we all know that we live in a world now where we're totally being overstimulated and getting so much exposure to so many different things. And to be able to calm that back down and come back to our center is really important. So bringing those in is really key. You've also got some really beautiful ones like pettigrain, which is a beautiful leaf oil, and a big tree, not necessarily a big forest tree, but again, nicknamed lavender for men, and is very relaxing in that way as well. So all the oils have been carefully selected to have that chemistry that you will get from the big trees. And obviously when we walk through a forest, there are so many different trees in there, and we can't get the essential oils from all of them. So we can use the doTERRA range to create, and I think there's a couple of special oils in there to kind of really create this magical blend that, is bang on exactly like a forest.
And it's slightly different to the Morimoto blend, which you'd be familiar with launching it in Japan. It's got pink grapefruit in it. It's got lavender in it. It's got some pettigrain, some geranium. And those floral elements and just that touch of citrus, it brings that freshness. You know that smell in the air when you're walking just in the morning when the sun's just starting to rise, and it just smells a little bit fresher, a little bit damper maybe from the overnight mildew that's come through, and then there's the citrusy that kind of comes through, and then those beautiful floral elements. It's a beautiful blend for bringing back memories. And obviously we know essential oils do that. They tap into our limbic system when we can kind of harness those feelings. I like to call it a bit of a biohack, that we can now start to hack into our emotions, see how we're feeling, and try and emulate those positive thoughts. I resonate with walking on the land in the bush because it brings back all these beautiful memories of me spending time with my little babies and my hubby and my little dog as well. How would you then try and emulate that in the home, for example? If I'm bringing a Shinrin-Yoku into my home, what are some ways that I can use that?
I think the main way is definitely going to be diffusion of this throughout the day and the night type of thing. And, we'll smell it, we'll love it, we'll enjoy it. But the brain normally stops telling us about a smell after about 10 seconds. And that's sometimes where you see people with, fragrances, they'll put some on and then they can't smell it, so they put more on and then they're marinated in it. Yep. But just by having this diffusing as a constant, and I'm really going to struggle when I have full-time access to this blend of getting that out of the diffuser to put something else in there type of thing, because your brain is getting that information to relax, to bring in all those effects that we talked about in the forest anyway type of thing. But, using that essential oil in that way, but also however you can bring nature back into the home. So this is, and ideally it's great to get outside, but we know we're busy and, I'm someone who loves nature, There are some days, because I'm the eternal student who loves to sit in front of a computer and doesn't step outside much at all, or living in the Middle East where I live, I can't see a tree wherever I am for the short period.
I feel like we need to talk about that in another episode just to find out about what it's like living in the Middle East. Sorry to interrupt, but that's so incredible.
So things like getting natural light in, having moving water around, having houseplants around, all these different types of aspects as well. This great book that I read, simply called Forest Bathing, talked about different things like there was two sides of a hospital, and one side looked out into a forest and the other side looked at another building. And they kept noticing that the side, all the patients staying on one side, the one facing the forest, were recovering quicker, need less medication, and they're getting all these more positive health outcomes just by being able to see the nature. So what they did is they put pictures of nature on the other side, and people started to heal better as well.
Wow.
So little things like I just changed the screensaver on my phone and on my computer to nature scenes and different things like that. So the more we can just bring little bits of nature in, with this Shinrin-Yoku blend being that central pillar of that, actually capturing the magic of the forest, they can all make subtle differences that make a big change when we can't get outside.
My brain is literally buzzing with ideas now of how I can really encapsulate, the green in the home.
Yeah.
But as I've mentioned, I've got a couple of young kids, and I know a lot of our wellness advocates, our audience, are similar to me in the sense that they're mums and dads that are raising young families, and how do we influence our children's worlds utilising these essential oils. So would you recommend popping it in a diffuser at night time for the bubbies to go to sleep in, for example?
Very much so. You may have a favourite blend like Lavender Peace that you already find works really well, but the chemistry of the Shinrin-Yoku blend is absolutely amazing. And I would really play around with either using it just in the diffuser by itself, but also bring in some Lavender Peace, bring in some vetiver, or maybe apply one of the other oils topically on the soles of the feet. We can I love to add, cedarwood or lavender or something, or magnolia with my skincare routine at night. So you can bring that in, and then Shinrin-Yoku is really going to excel in the diffuser.
You've touched on one of my favourite topics, and I totally agree. I think any kind of woodsy type of oil mixed with some florals is perfect for skincare. Your skin just loves the constituents within those oils. So popping it, even a drop in your moisturiser, whether it's on your body or even on your face. I would like to see it in hair care as well. I think a simple drop in a serum and popping it on the ends of your hair, you're going to get those aromatic benefits. You're cutting out the toxins from those products that you may have bought from the supermarket shelves instead. And then you're also getting the constituent value as well in those products onto your body. There's just so many different ways that you can use this blend. I'm so excited for it to come to market. This is going to be incredible.
It will be, exactly.
Fantastic. I know that we have cypress in this blend, and this is a really, popular oil at the moment, thanks to one of our beautiful founders, Emily Wright, who utilises it underneath her eyes. She does a couple of drops just on the orbital bone, and that helps to help her to beautify herself. She's beautiful in herself anyway, and it helps her to feel a little bit more confident. I would dare say that Shinrin-Yoku would be one of those oils that you could absolutely, just a simple drop, or maybe on your ring fingers, and place it under your orbital bone would be a beautiful way to end the day.
Very much so, yeah.
Would you do that?
I think I would, yeah. I think you've converted me. So yes, it'd be another great way to use it, yeah, for sure.
But we also know that these pine-style oils are fantastic on surfaces within the home as well. So I'm thinking of in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the laundry. This is the type of oil that's going to have that aromatic benefit as well. But you could also pop it in your linen sprays. You could add it into your laundry detergents. On your dry balls would be a beautiful way, because those wood oils tend to work really, really well in higher heat settings.
Yeah.
Like the dryer.
Well, what I was saying before is one of the reasons the trees in nature are releasing those phytonicides, which are those constituents, is to fight off bacteria and things that would be a threat to them.
Yeah, right.
So if we're doing some DIY cleaning products and making that, or adding it to our laundry and in our kitchens and around our home, you're, again, bringing in the power of the forest in fighting different things, and of course eliminating toxins at the same time. So it would be another brilliant way to use it.
Bringing in the power of the forest. There is the statement right there. That's our byline for Shinrin-Yoku. I'm going to pop it up on the website.
Love it.
That is incredible. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're obviously going to be talking later on today, which I'm thrilled about, that we get to spend the day together. But for now, I want to thank you for joining us on the couch. You are such a wealth of knowledge. Your wisdom and your storytelling is just infectious. So thank you so much for joining me today.
My absolute pleasure. Anytime I get to talk about what I love, it's a privilege. So I'm blessed that I got this opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Do what you do what you love, and you'll never work a day in your life, right?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, I hope you too have found some inspiration from today's conversation to consider how you're feeling, what your response to daily stresses are right now, and how you could support your system to feel a little bit more in balance. Until next time, bye for now.